Hey everyone, hope you're having a great Friday. Oh, come on. Yep. And let me admit everybody. Oops, not that. One's doing well. Happy Friday. Hey, who's this? Philip, Brian. Hey, Geek Dude, Hubert. That's all I can see from now.
Hello, Joe.
Hey, Sean, how you doing?
Good.
Have you done any more work on your, I don't even know what it's called, your clipboard tool?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hello.
hey, Tom.
Hi, Tom.
I almost said tab. I'm like, hey, tab. Yep.
I've gotten used to calling myself that too.
Looks like you got your ears lowered.
Yeah.
Looks good. I need to do the same. I'm ridiculously past.
Yep, I did that and shaved and everything. I've
But
been
that's what really is the difference, is the shade. Because I'm like, it looked cleaner, but I didn't put it together. But that definitely, yeah.
every time I go to take a shower, I'm like, okay, I need to shave, but then I forget. And then it's like 2 weeks later, and I'm like, okay, now I
Right.
definitely got to remember to do it because it's starting to bother me.
Yeah. How's everyone doing today? Where is Isaiah? He was here earlier. I'll have to ping him. We were discussing some of the differences between V1 and V2. Some I wasn't aware of. But yeah, we're gonna cover that later. Hope everyone's doing well. Has anyone got something they're working on? Oh, and Jesus bought the V1 to V2 course. Awesome. Yeah, it's a solid course. Jesus, have you started using V2 yet? It's Tom, are you? I don't remember. I don't think I've seen too many videos where you're using V2. Are you using V2?
I'm a little back and forth. It really depends. But I've started doing videos too where I'm doing both V1 and V2.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I might, even if I don't talk about it in the video, I'll link in the description below. I'll be like, here's it in, here's what I just talked about in V1, but here it is in V2 also. Sometimes I forget to do that, but trying to get better at it. Just doing both. Why not?
Well, I'm a big believer. I took sign language in junior college, and
Me too.
I was learning it here and there. And until I went into an immersion with this girl, we're like, hey, let's go practice. And so we couldn't talk. And so we went to a mall, we would go wherever and we would have to sign. And that was when I really started to learn. So to me, when I switched to V2, which is we're right on that border, I just haven't actually started to code anything. I'm like, I'm not switching back. I'm just doing all, and that's it. Like, I'm not gonna. So yeah, our channel, we're just gonna be switching hardcore. I have videos in the queue, so there's some that are still being released. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But in general, it happens that when you switch, you yourself will not, most of the time, I don't know that everybody's going to be like that, but most of the time people will not want to go back to V1 just by the fact of forcing expressions. Joe hears me every time I'm doing like, oh God, I have to do this again. Like it is so annoying because you don't have to do that. And now you're forced to do it in V1. So naturally, I think over time, especially when you get a little bit more fluent in V2, you probably will not want to go back to V1 because of the limitations it has. So yeah, doing both, okay, but I guarantee it's not going to be for the long run, actually.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just do V1 because so many people are still on it for YouTube videos. Yeah. But I mean, for the most part, I have been switching to V2 when I'm doing like personal stuff. Like you said, just to wean myself off V1, go into V2. So it really depends what I'm doing, what I'm using right now. It's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
I kept joking with Joe. I was like, when's V3 come out?
Oh, well, I do know that Lexicos said in a post, like really seriously, like don't expect V3 anytime soon. Yeah. So he was just saying like anything that you don't like about V2 right now, yeah, you're gonna have to deal with it for a long time, right?
Well, the
fact it'll come out when I retire from YouTube.
Yeah, V2 was in development for 12 years probably, at least somewhere in there. I mean, a really long time.
Yeah, and that's just for development, and then years and years just for it to go beta and then go mainstream and everything. It's a long process.
It was a very long process. Yeah.
Geek2 said he's been working on his machine code
library. Oh,
V2.
Yes, that would be great.
Based on, yeah, very cool.
I've been waiting for that for a long time. The one that I'm using right now requires me to have a DLL code, a DLL file. But if we have machine code for that, right? Yeah. Hopefully, if we can just embed the machine code into the script, then yeah, my script is the thing. You don't have to download anything additional. The reason why usually we don't like having executables or DLL files is because there are some environments that are really restrictive. And for example, right now, if you try it, if you zip a DLL and try to send it to somebody, Gmail is gonna block it. It's gonna say, hey, this is dangerous, because DLLs, executables, and stuff like that are treated differently than normal files. So if I have a way to just have source code and just send you that and it works, I'll be very glad. I really hate DLLs.
So especially while Geek Dude's here, because he's one of the people I would put up on a pedestal about this. I told, we haven't released the video yet, but I had this really interesting thought that I hadn't thought through about V2 and V1. And, Jack and I have been talking for a long time of, AutoHotkey stuff in Isaiah too. We were talking about how years ago, we had these amazing developers that stuck with AutoHotkey and did a crazy amount of stuff. And over the last, I'd say like 5 years, it's really petered. Like a lot of people come to AutoHotkey and then leave, right?
Yes.
There's not too many developers that stay forever and keep adding really great stuff. And that was when my big aha of like V2, I think, is going to stop that vanishing of people, because it's going to be very similar to other languages, and you can do
Right.
So V1 was easier to step into, but then when you started doing advanced stuff, it got really hard because of the quirkiness of AutoHotkey. Well, V2,
Yes.
it's a little harder to get into, but you can keep going with it, right? And I really think we're going to start seeing some really great stuff with AutoHotkey, and people stick with the language for longer and everything. So yeah, that really got me to say, you know what? Okay,
That sounds good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember there is kind of like a post that I'm reading, and I'm seeing on that post, and they were arguing about whether they should use colon equals for version 2, or they should only use the equal sign like we had in V1. And in that discussion, I saw so many people in there that I was like, holy crap, Machinator, Philo, Corrupt was another one. And I saw a lot of people that when I started AutoHotkey, I saw these people very frequently, and I actually regard them as really good programmers. Like Laszlo wasn't that for that, and from all that list, the only one that I see there is probably Laszlo. I don't see anybody else. Like everybody from that list is no longer either being active on the forums or even using AutoHotkey. I don't know if they're still in AutoHotkey, but I think V2, as you just said, Joe, might be a gateway for other people to kind of like see that it's really good and then stay because of the ease of use, right? But I think it goes down to personal preference. A lot of people might still like V1, right? Yeah, that's not bad.
Well, and of course you don't have to switch.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting at. Like, yeah, you might not like V2. Yeah, that doesn't mean that you have to use it.
Now, Philip wrote in the chat that it's been a while since he's used AutoHotkey, and he's wondering if my, like the intro to AutoHotkey or intermediate AutoHotkey courses, because those are written for V1, are really going to be helpful because V2 is so different. And I would argue it's surprising how similar V1 and V2 are overall. Now, they're not backwards compatible, don't get me wrong, but you could definitely learn from the other courses and then adapt to V2. And we have a V1 to V2 course, by the way, but Azais is actually right now working on redoing the intro to AutoHotkey in V2. So
yes,
I'd say that might be 2 weeks to 3 weeks out. It's hard because we don't know how busy we're going to be with client work, but we've been hashing out what to cover, and he's done some videos. And I would honestly say, if you're not in a hurry, wait. Right? Why learn V1 and then have to? There's a lot of things in V1 that you'll quote unquote learn incorrectly. You know what I mean? Like, why not learn it in V2 and just you're good to go?
Yeah, I think focusing on learning V2 from the start is a little bit easier. It's worse when you learn one thing and now have to unlearn it.
Right.
It is really hard to do that, and especially once you get into certain habits, like it's really hard to just get out of that habit. So if you learn V2 from the get-go, yeah, it might be a little bit weird because you're not a programmer and you're getting to it. Okay, fine. But as soon as you jump that one hurdle, you're gone. That's gone. So I would definitely just go, yeah, do V2, focus on V2 as much as you can. Unless you are a person who have been coding in V1 for years and you have many scripts that have thousands of lines, then that's the time where I would just not. The investment is not worth the effort of converting thousands of lines.
Or if you have to rely on libraries that has not been converted yet,
Right.
and you don't want to do these libraries yourself.
Right, exactly.
That's the case with the edit library that I'm using for a quick clipboard editor. And I asked G Bali, not sure how to pronounce his name, the guy who made this library, and he has no plan to convert at this time. So I may have to do it eventually.
Yeah, we're definitely at a weird like transition period where it's like, regardless if you know V1 or V2 or where you started, it's just such a weird one where it's like, yeah, let's go to V2, but I'm gonna have like way less support than I would with V1 currently. So it's just like a weird transition where, especially for newcomers, it's like, where do I start? And especially because of the libraries, you're not going to find stuff. And then, you know, especially if you're new, you're not going to probably want to go through and convert all the libraries to work with you or even know how to.
Yeah. And when you search, you're not sure what you find. Is it for V1 or V2 when you are beginner? So you could try something that will not work because it's not for the right version, and it's not necessarily always mentioned in the old post that these codes were for V1 or
we didn't know V2 was coming out.
I think no. Well, actually, just so you know, this is funny, but the post that I was referring to, it was when Chris, the original creator of AutoHotkey V1,
Mallet.
Yeah, Chris Mallet, when he was thinking about V2, and that was in 2006. So yeah, V2 was, they were planning V2 for a long time. The only thing is that nobody was actually agreeing on anything. That's what actually created some kind of a split in here. It was a very interesting read. I was looking at that topic and I was like, holy crap, people were really into the equal sign and not the colon equal sign. And still, Lexicos chose the colon equals, and I'm glad he did. I don't like the equal sign for other reasons, actually. So it was very interesting, but to the point is, V2 has been in the cooks for a long time. So, but the change is not so drastic that you cannot learn from it, like from V1. All right, in the forums for everybody here, what I would suggest is always use your requires directive in the code that you share. So if you're going to share a piece of code, just put the requires above, just so people know what version of AutoHotkey you're using. So you've said requires V1.1.36 plus. Okay, that I know is a V1 script. The other one is requires V2.0 plus. That's it. You just put that in there. And if somebody stumbles onto your on your code, they will know what the heck you're you're pasting there, right?
That's what I've been saying in a lot of my videos recently. I'm like, hey, if the title says V2, it's V2. If it says nothing about version, just assume it's version 1 right now. And so I've been going back slowly, linking to like how to convert into all my descriptions, but you know, that's a lot of videos to link it to slowly over time.
Well, I saw, and you'd have to pay for it, right? For TubeBuddy has an extension that will go back and you can add an overlay to your thumbnail. So it actually downloads your thumbnail, throws on the overlay, and then uploads the flattened out version of it, right? So I'm probably going to put a V1 like on, because I have 1,400 videos, right? And 1,350 at least are V1, but I didn't say that. So I'm gonna do that to update the logo, you know, the thumbnail, because mercy.
I would make a note to that what you just mentioned, Tom. For now, you can just keep saying, hey, assume it's V1, because the forum is structured in a way that V1 scripts are the main category and V2 scripts are in a secondary category. But if you go to the AutoHotkey web page, at the bottom, you get it that they're saying that they're restructuring the forum. So what that means is that probably V2, whenever you enter, you should assume V2 code. And if you want to see V1 code, you have to go to the sub forum. So I would just note that for now, yeah, you can assume it now, but I don't think you should do that assumption later on when they switch the forum around.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just mean for like the YouTube
Okay.
videos right now, if it doesn't have in the title that it says.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought that you were talking about the forum. I'm sorry.
No.
Cool.
Now, John actually had a question about V2 with error reporting, right?
Not exactly a question, more a finding. So if some people have questions, we can do questions first, but we can take a look at something I just found starting working on converting some of my code.
Yeah, but I think it's still Not saying
I started. I'm just really starting. First thing what I discover is the number of comma that I have to remove from my code, because there's a lot of comma at every line, because I always use comma after message box, comma, and so there's a lot of little things like that are annoying. And the other one that I found also is that the fact that variables that has not been initialized, there's a warning for that.
Yeah,
maybe there's a way to turn off this warning, because it can be a good practice to know that if the variable is not initialized, it's false, it's empty, it's false, and your code is still okay if you know what's happening there. If it's so, I understand the interest of having this warning for some situation, but if not, you have, when you debug your code, you have these warnings that can come 10 times before you get to the code you want to test. So maybe there's a way. I don't know. That's not. I would start with this question before what I wanted to show you about the error level thing.
So the first thing is that yes, you can disable the warnings with the warn directive. So if you look for
in your script
hashtag, so if you can look for hashtag warn. You can select what the warning type is, and one of them is the var onset, and then you can just put it either off or to output debug. So if you have debugger, it would be sent there, which is my suggestion is do not disable it, just send it somewhere that doesn't annoy you, which is the message box. But
something like this.
Sorry, let me see.
Something like this.
No, so you have to put now the word right next to warn.
Yeah.
Put the word var onset all together. Var onset, comma.
Yeah.
And then you would have to put that one either off or whatever. And let me double check if you have to. Yeah, you don't have to use quotation marks on that.
So this is V1. That's not where I want to put it. I want to put it in V2.
For example, this is where you would try to do that.
Okay.
Now, I would say, just as a little comment on that, I would definitely think about using the warn var onset if you're converting a V1 script that has many lines, because it's going to be more work going variable by variable and checking which one is empty or not. So at that point, I would use this. If you're not converting a script, if you're starting from scratch, I wouldn't really recommend doing that, because it helps
because you think it's a good practice to always initialize the variables, even if it is to put empty in them or false in them.
That's correct.
I understand that's good practice, but not mandatory practice.
No, it is not. And basically, I would just use it for new scripts so I can get used to it. But for converting scripts, I would definitely do this.
Yeah, I understand. So the thing I found, I started with converting my development tools, debugging tools, and one of these tools is to log some information from the code running by writing to a text file. And I have this piece of code here in V1.1 that writes to the file, and because this function, it's not a function here, but in real life it's a function, because it can be used very rapidly. It happened that when the function tries to write to the file is still busy writing the previous call to this function. So that's why I added here if there is an error. So it happens something to the given file. Just for testing, I make this file read-only so that we can just test that there's an error, but the real error that happens is something like file busy, or, you know, the OS is still writing this file. So you have to wait maybe only 20 milliseconds, but you have to wait.
Yeah.
So if there's an error, sleep 20 seconds, and until the index is more than 50, so it means that we waited for 1 second, 50 times 20 milliseconds. So then we know that there's an error, something that is permanent. It's not only that you have to wait for the file to be ready. So, and then I added their message box too. So I have this file here that I put as read-only. And when we run this,
you would get that.
So we get the error here because,
right, because it couldn't just do that.
Yeah. So converting this to V2 meant that I discovered that the error level variable does not exist anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh,
exactly.
I use it a lot. I use it. And often it is even used to return a value from the command you're calling to Windows. So this will require some work for each time you use error level. So in this case, because error level does not exist, you have to use the try catch.
Exactly, that is correct.
And the question I had is that in the documentation about try catch, it is said that, let me switch if I can open this page here. No, it's not here. Here. No, that's okay. I have to look at the document, but it says that there is a predefined object error that is called OS error.
It's a type.
And it's the doc. It's not clear how to use this. So I had to pose this question on the forum, and the answer is that this predefined error is the same thing. You use it the same way as you use try catch, and catch error, and then you define a variable that you will use to look at the error. So that's the same thing, except that in the case of this predefined error, you have an additional information, which is the error number, coming from the OS. So running this, so it's quite different from this.
So
here it's done in 2 lines.
Right. So
here you have to catch the error. If it's an error, you sleep. If not, you break. So you exit the loop, and then you can continue to until you get 50. 50
I'm not
times
sure about the else there. Like, so if you try to do something and you catch an error, you just wait. Now, if there was no error, the loop is going to break the first time. So that is not going to loop many times. It's just going to do it once with this code. Because you're saying if there is no error,
if there's no error, it breaks at the first.
Exactly. It's just so if it is going to be like that, then you don't need a loop. Just do the try catch without the loop. So you can let go of lines 7, 8, 13, and 14, and 15. All of that can go. And you don't even need the sleep. You just try. And if you catch an error, then you say, hey, message box error.
But if I want to wait until the file is ready to be written,
then don't use
then you have to try again.
Right. Then don't use the else break, because then you're breaking out of the loop, which you don't need.
So there's no loop. So tries there.
So let's do what I'm trying to say. If you're going to use the loop to query several times, don't use the else break. So keep the loop, but remove the else break. So remove the else break. Because that else break is actually effectively not looping, because the first time that is okay, then
but I don't want to loop. If there has been no error, I don't want to loop. I want to exit.
So you want to exit as right away?
I want to exit as soon as possible. as soon as the file does not return an error, because here the error is because it is read-only, but in real life it is because the file is
Other
busy.
things. Right.
It can be busy only for a fraction of a second. It can be busy for a longer time if it is on a network drive.
So you just want to wait for the file.
I want to wait until it is available up to 1 second. And after 1 second, I abandon and then I report an error. And if there's no error, I just continue. Normally, this would not be.
It would not be a message. Yeah, I understand.
So that's the reason to break, to quit this loop as soon as possible.
Let me explain. So what happens is, this is one of the things that AutoHotkey V2 forces you to do subconsciously. It forces you to use the right approach. What you're trying here, even if it works, it creates a lot of code for nothing, because this is kind of twice the same amount of code as the other one. I don't know if you can see that, right? And then you will say, hey, I'm doing something wrong. Well, if you do the other approach, which is the correct one, you would use less code. So if you try the file open, there is a method, an object, the file open object, that returns an object. You can use that to try to open a file in read-only, in which mode you want to open it. You can open it in read mode. But if you want to open it in write mode, it would give you a 0 for the handle. And then you say, while I don't have a handle, wait until I can do something. And when that happens, then write the file. So it would be a 2 or 3 line of code instead of what you're trying here. I could show you an example of what I mean.
Yeah, that would have to be called each time I write to the file.
No, so
no,
that's
just at the beginning. So there was kind of
even if in this particular instance, you know what I would do? I would open the file and I would lock the file so nobody else can take it, and that way I can always be sure that I have write access to it all the time. Which,
but it is myself who is blocking the file because I'm calling the write too quickly.
It's the file append that is causing that. But if you use the write, you don't have that issue, or ever.
The file object.
Okay.
Right. So if you open the file object with write mode, the information will only be written if you use the close, if you close the handle, right? So you could write to it and not close the handle, and while it's not closed, it's not going to be busy. It's going to be okay. After you finish, you close the handle, and then it is going to, which I think Joe and I, we covered this in a video a while ago. We covered this about why we rather have file open instead of using file append. And especially when we're writing in loops, I would always
especially under a cloud like Dropbox, something.
For example,
yeah, that's
the solution
for this kind of delay. Yeah.
Right. The solution for your problem of, the file is busy, even if it is yourself or anybody else, the solution is opening the file with the write flag, which is the W.
So
and then
this one here?
No, but you see the asterisk, instead of the asterisk would be the file path.
Okay.
And after the W, if you put the dash, like the negative, the hyphen, that means block. So this is the second flag, where go up a little bit. I'm sorry. You see this, the sharing mode flags at the bottom. The second one go that. If you put the minus in front of any of those letters, it actually blocks it from anybody else writing to it or anybody else reading it. If you specify the minus by itself, then it blocks all of them at once. So I usually put W hyphen, and that blocks the file. I open it for writing and block it for everybody else. And automatically, I do not have that issue. So I am 100% sure that anything I do, even if I'm looping, I'm the only one having access. And every time you write, it waits until it finishes writing until writing the next one. So you will not have that issue at all.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Isaias, this is where you just make sure you have, you do close it, and also on exit have something that would actually close it, right?
Right. So my hot string, because I have a hot string for it, my hot string creates the open, the write, and the close right away, just puts the three of them. And then I just, if I'm going to write in a loop, then I create my loop and just do the writing and everything. But I know that the file handle is closed, because if you don't, when you, it would stay open and then you cannot access it any other way. I am not sure if AutoHotkey automatically handles closing all file handles on exit automatically. I'm not sure about that, but I think AutoHotkey has some garbage collection. So it might do that automatically. So if the script exits, it probably closes all the handles to files, but I cannot guarantee that.
Good, I'll try it.
Yeah, just take a look at that. And if you use that, the code is going to be way shorter. I guarantee it.
Good.
And the file object is very flexible.
Yeah,
You can do a lot.
that's
with
for
it.
sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We also, the bare minimum, if you're using file append, that's when I'll use the mod statement to not write it every time. I'll do it like every 10th time or something, which just cuts down.
That is correct.
Into something. Has anyone else got something they're working on or have a question with? I see he says he's got a lot of hot strings for scripting. Yeah, I have so many that's why I use quick access pop-up, is I put them in there, and some of them I have hot strings and hotkeys for, but right, there's a lot that I can't just remember. So it gives me a GUI that makes it simple.
There's no questions. We must be doing too good of a job.
Anthony, if there are any good scripts for backing up, I haven't heard anybody creating a script for backing up, because it is so easy to create. You just set a timer and file move.
Well, the trick is, what I did, this is like 10 years ago. Gabe and I wrote scripts to back up certain files. So we write a loop that would go across, and it would check to see the timestamp of the file, and if there was a newer version of it, it would only grab it if it was newer. But we also could easily put in the extension, say, here are the ones I want you to look for, and here are the paths to recursively loop across. And it was really convenient.
I don't know, but I think he's talking about actually backing up like your whole PC, which that like is Angel is talking about. You can just, it's built into Windows where you can have a timer go off. Like I think mine goes off once a month and it automatically goes to my external hard drive,
for example. But I mean, like, and I mean, what he was asking is like an AutoHotkey script that would do that. And I'm just saying you don't need an AutoHotkey script to do it, because you just loop through the files in your computer and just file move them into a different location. So it is. I can
What do you
show
mean
you an
you don't
example.
need an AutoHotkey script, and then you mentioned file loop? To me, that makes no sense. I don't understand.
No, that he doesn't have to find somebody who created one, because you can do it yourself in 5 seconds. This is what I'm trying to get at. Like
Right.
it is not like a very complex, unless you have some requirements. Or like you had, like, if the file size is less than this, or if the file time frame is less than that, that might you have to kind of like get more into it. But if it is just like, I know that folder, I want all the files of that folder in this other location, and I want to do that every 15 minutes, I can write you can do that in like 5 lines of code. It's not really, I could even show you the example right now. It's just a timer. You set a timer and then just loop through the files that you want to loop, and that's it.
And Dude,
there was a video that you put out just recently about moving, like doing something with files too, and I thought that was a really great idea, because I think a lot of people they're sending all their downloads from their browser and maybe all their downloads from their email program to a single directory called downloads, and so like after a while, that's just naturally going to fill up with just download after download. Yeah. So yeah, you could probably do like a weekly or monthly thing and just clean out that download folder, because it's a problem that every single computer user has to do anyway. Like, hey, just move all my images to my image, picture directory, move all my downloaded PDFs to my documents directory, and then just to keep it clean, just to do that email, zero email box, theory or whatever.
Yeah. But in general, if it is just that, if it is just about those type of things, yeah, that is a very simple. I haven't heard about a script that does that, but I think it is because you just set a timer, say either file move or file recycle if you just want to send them to the trash or whatever, and you're good to go. The only thing there is how fast you want that to happen, every 15 minutes, every 1 hour. That's it.
Well, again, like I was saying, what we realized was the vast majority of files don't change. So why would I go grab a copy of everything when I can compare the timestamp and only get copies of things that have been updated, right? Which really sped up.
Right. Oh, no. But that's the reason why I use the word file move, because I would move the file so I don't have them in the download folder anymore. I have it backed up somewhere. But then the next time I check the downloads, then that file is not there, because it would be weird to copy everything over and over again. Because it's true, as you say. Just imagine at that point, if I have 500 files, it's going to be fast. But then when I have 5,500, it would be slower. No, I think you have a point there. Just move or copy the ones that that you care about, like the latest ones or the ones that changed. Or, anybody else have a question?
Oh, hey, Darwin, who wrote us that question about the list view stuff is here. You want to show that? Yeah, we saw. And Darwin, if you had given me your email, I would have emailed you what we had come up with. But I'm glad you're here. It's fine. To get to your other question, the compiling of site. Yeah, that's a very deep topic. So we're not touching
it's
that.
Off topic, yeah, in the sense of is not something that many people will benefit from it, because they're not coding in C++, so it might be a little bit harder to explain. Let me get to sharing the screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is something that you could do in V1 with a specific syntax, and that changes on V2. So I just wanted to show the two examples just so that you had an idea. So let's first of all create an array, and I'm not right now coding in V1. And if you wanted to create kind of like a multi-dimensional array, you could do so by just going ahead and referring to the two dimensions. So that would be the first one would be the row, for example, and the second one would be the column. And then you could go ahead and say testing here. And later on, you just access that exactly the same way. So you would just say, hey, give me that. And that was working just fine, which is a weird syntax for AutoHotkey. AutoHotkey does not have that in arrays that often, so that would make it a little weird. So 1, 2, now what I wanted to do was 1, 1, and 1, 2. Now 2 is testing, and 1 would be test. So that's a multi-dimensional array in V1, sorry. So you could have this now. Yeah. Simple. In V2, this is no longer the case. I'm sorry. Can you put Brian on his audio? Okay, there we go. So in V2, you can no longer do this. And you have to be a little bit careful with V2 arrays, because you cannot just assign an array just of the sudden. If it doesn't exist, if that array index, like for example, if the array index 1 doesn't exist in your array. So as you can see here, I just created the array empty, so I do not have index 1. In V2, you cannot just simply grab the index 1 and assign something to it. That would automatically throw an error. That is no longer possible. And I think we talked about that in our course. Oh, sorry, remove the percent sign, thank God. So you would still get an invalid index error. So you cannot do this. So if you do this, what you can do is push the values. And I explained that the reason why in our course, why this is better. Why do you have to push it? That's the first thing. Hold on. No, because I have to not use the index here. So I can push the values like this. And now to create a multi-dimensional array, that means that I should, instead of pushing one string, I should pass a second array. That's what I should do. So let me create a simple example. Let's say that you have data for a list view. So you want the data for a list view. I just have that. And for each row, I want to pass another array that has the column number 1 data, right? Column number 2, column number 3. So this is my data that I'm going to have. Of course, the first one is the headers, right? So the first row would be the headers. That I push that array into this array. Now I have 2 dimensions. I have the rows here and the columns here. Now to access that data, let me just replace that. To access the data, I would refer to the first row, second column. That's what I have to do now. It's the same thing. Now, instead of commas, you just refer to each of the array elements in their own section, which is a little bit more consistent with many other languages and other things that you can do. So this is how you do multi-array, so multi-dimensional arrays in V2. Does that make sense?
Did you want to, he said something about showing it in the list view. Do you want to?
Right. So now let's say that I want to loop over that. So let's have 2 rows just to make sure that now data 1, data 2, data 3, push row 1, row 2. All of this code, obviously, you can do inside loops. So now if I have main 3, main dot add list view, I would, this is my list view. I want to grab it.
As I was telling Isaias, I've been using objects for quite a while, objects and arrays, and using them just for storage alone, like without even knowing all the other stuff, just using them for storing your data and structuring your data is a huge benefit, right? It really helps you organize your variables and your data, and it's really, really helpful.
ID, no, let's do this. Let's just use this as my headers. And this as my data. Okay, so now I have created my list view. And let's just go ahead and show main, return, and let's just see what it looks like without the data first. Right, so I have my 3 columns, no data. The only thing I have to do now is loop, or I would just do for row in data. Now my list view object. So when I create a control, this returns my control here, which is perfect because now I can name it whatever I want. I do not have to use the list view functions that we used before. And also, I do not have to figure out which list view I'm working with every time. Now I just use that object and now I just do whatever I want here. I can add it. I don't think I need options right now, but now I need my data. Now I'm going to do something interesting here. Row right now is going to be an array. And arrays, you can pass an array to a list view like this. You can pass an array data 2 and data 3. And you can put an asterisk there to expand that array into parameters for the add function, which is something that not many people know you could do that, right? So you could do that. You can expand an array into the parameters of a function, because what happens is that the add function gets the colon 1, col 2, and col 3 like this. It gets each column in its own parameter. So I'm just going to force that. And as I know that this row is an array, I can just say row and expand that into the add command. And usually that should, as you can tell here, just go ahead and add my data. That's it. And as I mentioned before, it makes it so much easier for me to make sense of what I'm doing. So if I don't add this, I don't have data. If I add it, I'm definitely getting the data from this thing that I just created, which is my array with 2 rows of data. I just push them, and then I just load them into my list view like this. Does that make sense? Is there anything that doesn't make sense on this?
What was that middle part?
Yeah.
In the comic relief.
Yeah. No, but this is something that I don't, and this is doable in V1 as well. You can, if you have an array, if you put an asterisk in the array in the parameters of a function, it just expands the array for each part of the array to be one of the parameters of the function. This is basically something that not many people use that often, but yeah, it's possible and makes your code more readable. It's easier than having long lines of code.
I just want to throw out real quick, we got about 10 minutes left. So if anybody can't get their question in today, we're here every Friday, except for maybe a holiday.
Yeah.
10 o'clock EST. So use Google and convert it, or use ChatGPT to convert it to your time zone.
That's right. Actually, I wouldn't have thought about using ChatGPT for that.
I've been playing with it a lot when it's available. I mean,
right.
There's a lot of times where I go on, it's just like max capacity for like hours at a time. I'm like,
Yeah. We know.
I've had really good luck the last week. It's been, I haven't had any problems with bandwidth.
Yeah, last night it was like 2 hours before I was able to get in because I wanted to test some stuff. I don't know why I never thought to do this, Joe. I meant to send you a screenshot. So I asked it, I was like, tell me about some AutoHotkey YouTube channels. So it mentioned you and me.
Cool. Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. So yeah, and it gave a description. Like I was going to send you a link or a screenshot of your channel. And it's, I mean, it was spot on. It's like, Joe has, years of experience. His videos are easy, very well built. Like I was like, wow, this thing is giving us good compliments here. But then the funny thing though, is it gave me 5 channel names and I didn't recognize any but mine and Joe's. So I looked them up and I was like, it just gave me like random information on channels that didn't even exist. So it's not perfect.
That happens.
Well, that's ChatGPT for you.
But that's the thing. So it will use the information that it has, but it will autocomplete stuff. And if it doesn't have enough information, it will make up stuff because it's just generating text for you. But it's not really answering you. I think I talked with Joe about this, like, yeah, you have to take that with a grain of salt. It's just generating text. It's not really answering you.
No,
right?
I think our channels are awesome. I don't know what you're talking about, Isaias.
That's
just jealous yours wasn't mentioned, which is, for
Mine
those that
was
don't
not
know,
there, right? Yeah.
He has a channel. I was watching his videos over 10 years ago, right? Like when I first started learning AutoHotkey, I was learning from him. And I still do now, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, like, it was that long ago. And then I was just telling Jackie and Isaias the other night, it was from talking to Jackie, because Jackie actually has a YouTube channel. And I was talking to him one day and I'm like, maybe I'll start, creating videos. And and several years.
Right.
It gets handed down. You got it from Azaziel, and then I got it from you.
Right.
All right, guys, who's going to start their next YouTube channel?
Wow.
Yeah, somebody's going to start from here. Yeah, that's right.
What I love is,
it was just really funny. The description was like spot on for our channels, and I was like, I'm so flattered.
Right. I'm someone. You're everyone's seen The Jerk, right, with Steve Martin. I'm finally in the phone book. I'm someone, and I exist. Anyway,
that's right. Now, what we're going to do in the next, so one of the things that we are getting ready for is that in the next call, we're going to be talking about variable references in AutoHotkey V2, because there are some commands that you're very used to using in V1 that have changed in that capacity. And it is going to be a little bit annoying for some people to get around it. The idea is going to be basically the same, good, but there's a little change in how the commands work. So
yeah,
that later.
We were discussing what's going into the intro to AutoHotkey for V2, and we're using V1, version as an outline and then adding and subtracting where it makes sense. And Isaias is like, well, no, I need to mention by ref because some of these commands now require it. And I was thinking it's a more advanced, like actually what was the stir split or even regex, right? I'm like, okay, that's no one's using these things in the intro. But oh no, some of the very common ones actually need a by-ref in them, and I was like, what? That's a bummer.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I actually hoped that V2 followed suit with the fact that it is using objects more. Like for example, they switch the menus and GUIs to be objects. Hey, if I have a command that returns 4 key points, which is, for example, getting the position of a window or whatever, that gives you coordinates or stuff. Hey, then return an object. Like I would like it to return an object that I could just now. But I think he said, hey, that is going to be something that I might plan when I start with what did he say? Like when he starts with the typed things in V2, he plans to have typed variables. Well, no, structures. The idea of structures is what he's probably at some point adding to the language. And if that's the case, I would assume that that's when he will actually start returning these types of variables that are structured in a specific way. That's when he would probably do that. But don't expect V3 anytime soon. That's why that's the only thing he said. Like, so yeah, we can only hope.
And by the way, I some of you guys have probably noticed I've been saying, please like the video. It really does help us get more views. But I've been putting in some plucky comments of saying how liking this video, it's like giving it a hug, whatever. I had asked ChatGPT, I said, hey, create a list of 20 funny things to say about liking the video and how it will help you. And I'm like, oh, I'll just keep throwing these in here and there. So yeah. But ChatGPT is just crazy.
Yep.
And then we got, what is it, Bard coming out soon?
Yeah.
No one knows what that is. It's the Google version, basically.
Yeah, and I saw one. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you saw the video on Claude, and there's another. It's a female name also. It's by someone. Still, another one of these AIs. But the Claude demo, I was like, okay, that looks pretty interesting. The stuff I saw on Bard, at least for now, and that's where I think both being Microsoft and Google are missing. They're of course they're screwed, right? Because they've built billion-dollar industries on search and how the responses are found, and of course companies are paying crap or spending a ton of money to get ranked and this and that. I don't think that's people are going to stop doing that. I don't want to see all this crap. I go to ChatGPT because I want one thing to look at and not all this crap.
Right.
I think they're both kind of putting their heads in the sands and not realizing they want people to want the same thing, but I don't think people are going to be using it. Not like we used to.
Yeah, I have ChatGPT extension for when I'm on Google, so I don't even have to go into the websites. If I'm looking for a simple answer, it just spits it over into the side.
Yeah.
So like even then, I'm not searching as much using Google with, going into the site, have to scroll through to find out where that answer is. It's just like, boom, here's a paragraph on what you asked, who is this guy or something.
I demoed a buddy last night who hadn't heard of any of this stuff. So I just showed him and I said, the only way, he's like, well, can you explain it to me in 20 minutes? I'm like, there's no way I can explain this to you in 20 minutes. So we had an hour and I said, you got to show them in real world for their examples, how you can use it. And after a while, he was really starting to get it.
Kind of like grasp it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah,
that's funny. Even with like AutoHotkey, when I was doing coding for this one company, it was like hey, if you have any ideas on what we can automate or you want to see automated, let me know.
Right.
Well, pretty much I never got anything because
Right.
they just didn't understand. They didn't know, oh, I'm doing this repetitive task. I don't know if it can be automated or not. So 90% of the projects I did was me just shadowing someone and saying, show me what you do. Okay, yeah, we can automate that. It's kind of the same idea. It's just like you just need to know a real world case before you can really start to understand.
Sorry, Anthony, I just saw your question about what does temperature mean. If I remember right, that's the amount of creativity in the, is it the low score is low creativity and a 1 is high?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me answer just 1 second here. We're having kind of like a little chat here on the about the bar ref and so on, and I want to address this point for Irfan. No, it's not the same as the bar ref from.
Why don't you show one example?
Right.
So we have a lesson planned for the hero group, but we can share one example here.
That's so let me get that real quick.
And it's funny because the thing which I was telling Isaiah is in our course, don't explain it as a by reference because that's just going to confuse everybody.
That's just going to make a big mess. And here's the problem: if you're using the run command, you have to specify the target that you want to run, the working directory, the options. But this other parameter here is a by ref parameter in which the run command is going to add information to that so you can later reference it by saying message box. But even though that looks like a by ref, which is in functions is very similar, but I was saying, hey, you can use it outside of a function by itself. And I was just sending an example right now that, hey, you can have a variable that contains a var reference in there, like this. And then you can set information to that other variable. And when you do a message box, you dereference a var reference, and you will get the word test in it. So it is not exactly the concept of what you saw in functions. It is kind of like its own type. And it is not a memory address either. He asked, is that like memory address? Not exactly. That's not a memory address. I cannot just simply say message box bar here and see kind of like a pointer like you did in V1. That's not what you get. It is going to throw an error. It's going to say, hey, the number 1 requires a string, but it actually received a variable reference. That is a type of thing in V2. It's a type. So I just wanted to clarify that now that we had like 1 or 2 minutes, but we are going to actually talk about this in depth in the AutoHotkey Hero group now. And yeah, hopefully it's going to be helpful for other people to understand what that is and how to use it. So yeah.
And someone said Sage had a good question on that, but I don't see the question. And then someone said, can you expand on it next week? But I'm like, I can't if I don't know the question.
Maybe he sent it to somebody privately because.
No, this was in YouTube.
Okay. I'm sorry. I don't know. Maybe a comment or something.
I don't know. I'm just not seeing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But someone asked about, is there a better way to remember?
Probably he said like, can I pay for the hero group annually or does it have to be monthly? Probably is that one.
No, it's just monthly.
Okay. So it's just monthly for now. That's right.
Also, I would say is having like for hot strings, I have patterns like for people's email addresses. I'll use their initials. Like mine, well, actually mine isn't. Mine's different because I have like 6. But I would do like JGE, and then I always use a period just because it's how I remember the stuff. But I use everyone's initials with E for email, and then I have patterns, so I don't have to. Actually, Zayas, it's like your usage of the past. Oh, we're at the hero hour.
Yeah,
but yeah, right. There's having patterns really helps. So thanks everyone. We got to jump to the hero meeting. Thank you all.
Bye bye.
See you next Friday.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.